Hey everybody. Now the first thing you might be wondering is, why do I hear Christmas music and why is there still a Christmas tree in the background? It's January 6th. Aren't we a little past the Christmas thing? Well, in our home, we observe Christmas until Epiphany. Some people who come from more traditional Christian backgrounds may be familiar with the Christmas season lasting until Epiphany. Others may not, but we do observe it till Epiphany, which means our Christmas tree stays up, and I try and stay in the Christmas spirit and all through Epiphany, which is today, but that's not what this video is about. This video, as you can tell by the title, is about turning 40, which is something that I'm going to be doing on Thursday. Now, why do I tell you that I'm going to be turning 40 on Thursday? Well, it's not so that I can get a bunch of people to say happy birthday, Mike. The reason I'm talking about this is because I want to reflect on what turning 40 means to me. And in doing that, the first thing that I think about is what turning 30 meant to me. And I think back and I recall that when I turned 30, what was most on my mind, what I was thinking about, was aging and losing my youth. And it's funny because, I was still pretty young then. Now there's some older people out there who probably think at 40 you're still pretty young too. And yeah, you are in some ways. But there are different differences between when I turned 30 and now that I'm turning 40. As far as aging goes, I have a lot more gray hair. I have a lot less hair. I have a lot more body aches. I definitely feel the effects of aging much more now than I did when I turned 30. I'm not as concerned about the loss of my youth anymore as I was when I turned 30, because I've come to realize I'm still young enough. I can play with the kids, I can goof around, I'm still quite capable of being silly and immature when I want to be. I still know how to be a kid in many ways, so that doesn't concern me as much. And aging doesn't concern me as much because, it's just a reality of life. Over the last decade, I've had to deal with some of the effects of my aging. I deal with high blood pressure. I have a mild case of diabetes, both of which probably have a little more to do with being overweight than they do with my age necessarily, but they're there, and I have to deal with them. They're things that have crept up in the last decade. So, if I'm not worried about aging and the loss of my youth like I was when I was 30, what am I worried about coming into the age of 40? Well, it's not so much what I'm worried about. It's really a matter of just what I feel about my life. I find myself reflecting on what I've done with my life. I can look back on my life and realize that back when I was 9 years old, I prayed for salvation and gave my heart to the Lord. And that was a wonderful thing, but I did a lot of rebelling after that, and it wasn't until I was about 16 that I really applied myself to my relationship with God. And therefore at that point, that's where I really started to grow, and when I was 17, I felt the call to ministry, so I started becoming involved with things that would allow me to do ministry and to learn about ministry. When I was in my late 20s, early 30s, I went through ministry school. So I guess this is what I think about mostly is, in this life that I'm called to live for Jesus Christ, how have I done that? There's a Keith Green song that I often think about, and it has a line in it that says, "There's a life I'm meant to live for you, sometimes I've lived for me." I think a lot about that. And it's very true of me and my examinations of myself and how I've lived my life over that first 40 years. For the first 16 of those years, I definitely lived my life almost primarily for myself. Over the next 24 years, I lived my life much more for God, but not necessarily more for God than for myself. It's probably been a little closer to even. But what I find myself thinking about as I turn 40 is that in whatever time I have left, and who knows how much time that's going to be. I mean, sometimes people die younger than you think they're gonna. I have a friend who is about 9 years older than I am, but he had a little brother who was just a few years older than me, and he died this last Christmas. I'm getting to that age where things can happen. Tomorrow doesn't have the assurance that it used to seem like it had. So it's not so much I'm thinking about aging, but thinking about rather how much time is there going to be left? I don't know. Doesn't really matter. I mean, I'll get what I'll get. I'm going to sure do my best to try and give myself as much time as I can. Try and take care of myself much better now that I'm turning 40, hopefully. But much more than that, I want to take this life that I'm meant to live for God and live it much more for God than for me. More of Jesus, less of me. That's what I'm thinking about in turning 40. I want more of God and less of me. And I want to take whatever I have in this life, whatever gifts He's given me, whatever resources He's giving me, my time, my talents, whatever the case may be, and use them more for His sake and His glory than for my own enjoyment, entertainment, ego, personal satisfaction, whatever the case may be. Less of me, more of God. More of Jesus, less of me. Because up till now, I recognize I haven't really done that. And going forward, I want that to be the case. And that's what I'm thinking about as I turn 40. So, I thank you for listening to me babble on about this. And I hope you're having a great New Year. I hope you had a great Christmas. Today marks the last day of my Christmas. And I'll talk to you again. Take care.